What is up? Welcome back to Undefined. I'm Christian with my brother Patrick. Today we got a pretty special podcast. We're going to talk about a bunch of the classes we took in our engineering undergrad, and I know a lot of you probably are wondering what's the hardest classes we've taken as mechanical engineering undergrads. So we're definitely going to answer that question today, and we're going to get into a lot more topics as well. So yeah, here we go. We got Patrick all the way from Michigan. Patrick, what's up?
What's up?
Sweet. Yeah, I'm over here in San Antonio, pretty far from you. All right,
Yeah,
let's
I'm
get
all by
this.
myself.
Let's get this rolling. All right, Patrick. So
You want me to start off?
yeah, you can start it off. What's some of the hardest
Uh,
classes you've had
I think
as an
I
undergrad
think
so
by
far?
far it's
Wait, hold on, hold
probably
on.
what
For reference, Patrick is a junior, right, or senior, going to be a senior.
going into be senior. So I haven't taken like some classes, but I've taken most of like what people consider like make or break classes. I'm missing like one or two, but I've taken most of them.
Sweet, sweet. Patrick, your audio, your video quality is kind of like dipping a little bit. What's going on here?
Yours did also.
Did what the heck?
I don't think it'll matter. We can check it after.
Yeah, whatever. We'll check it. All right, Patrick. Yeah, you can go ahead and get started. What's some of the hardest classes you've taken?
I think by far the hardest is probably Cal 1. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I always laugh when like freshmen come up and ask if it gets harder than like Cal 1 or Cal 2 because it does. But
Yeah.
for me, the hardest class I took was also the class I kind of enjoyed the most, which was dynamics, which is
Dynamics.
which is like one of the classes that people like. If you ask people, dynamics is one of the classes that they say was probably one of the hardest, like in undergrad, which it is for good reason. It's pretty crazy. It's a lot more advanced than what you take like leading up to that point.
Yeah, I'm more concerned that you said you like that class. Like, did you say that's like your favorite?
No, it's not. It's not my favorite, but I grew to like it. Like I enjoyed the material that was on it. Like because that class, I think I started that class. I was doing good in school. I took statics. It was all going good, and that I was chilling in that class. I took it like I did any other class, right? And the first test, I got like a 45.
45. Yeah, that sounds about right
Yeah,
for dynamics.
yeah. So that was the first test I like completely bombed. So I was freaking out, and that's kind of the semester I found like my actual studying habits because I had to study well for that class. So
Nice.
yeah, I brought it back. I got an A in the class, but it was super hard. And that's anyone would tell you dynamics is hard unless they're just a genius in that stuff.
Dude, I bet. For reference, if you haven't taken dynamics, dynamics is basically physics for moving systems. So you start off with statics. Once you pass statics, statics is the study of physics on static objects, obviously. You move on to dynamics, and that is when mechanical engineering gets really, really, really hard.
Yeah. So like statics is like the whole thing of statics is like force all the sum of the forces equals zero, right? So all the forces on an object equals zero because it has to stay still. Dynamics is like everything is force equals mass times acceleration because it's moving. But it's so much, it's a lot to memorize and a lot to learn.
It
It's a
is.
lot.
Yeah, I'd even go on to say that dynamics is probably like the first weed out class or the main weed out class you experience in mechanical engineering, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because when I took statics, I had a really cool professor, but he was really mean to people. So like if you were confused and you asked a question, he would just yell at you, like, get out of my class. You don't deserve to be here. But
Yeah.
every time someone asked a question, he'd be like, oh, I feel bad for you when you go to dynamics because you're not going to last there if you're confused on statics.
That's true. My statics professor used to do the same thing. So my statics professor, I took it at UT Dallas. He took it at UTSA. Um, yeah, mine was the same professor for statics and dynamics. And if you asked a dumb question in statics, he just look at you kind of like you're an idiot, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was rough. Dynamics was definitely one of the toughest class I'd taken. I actually sat next to a guy who was on his third attempt taking it, and if you fail three times, you have to switch your major. So that's kind of how hard dynamics
Yeah.
is in
There
a
was a
nutshell.
there was a lot of those in my class. It was like 50% of the class was taking it for the first time, 50% was taking it for the second or third. And that's kind of how it is once you get like to the higher level classes. Just everyone's taking it again.
Yeah, no shame in it. No shame in it. I've had to retake a couple of classes. Luckily, dynamics was not one of them. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I went into
Getting
that
past
class knowing it was going to be tough.
Yeah. And then yeah, you told me it was going to be super hard. So that's why I was so nervous. I was so nervous like a year before I took dynamics because you told me stories about it. So I was just preparing to struggle in dynamics.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Um, yeah, and dynamics is just like the tip of the iceberg. It just gets harder from there,
Yeah.
pretty
And
much.
then I remember for that class, the final exam was stressful beyond belief because he wrote the final and we started taking it and I thought I was gonna like I think I did well enough in the second two exams after the first one to where I couldn't really fail unless I got like a 20 on it. But I was freaking out that I was gonna get close to failing because every single question I was like, I can't solve this. I don't have enough information, so I must have not studied right. I must have forgotten everything. But after the test ended, so okay, going back, like during the test, I was like, okay, I don't know how to solve for this, so I'm just gonna make up numbers. Like I'm gonna say this beam length is 15, and then solve it out that way. And then
Nice.
after the test ended, he was like, "Oh, I forgot to put a bunch of measurements on there. So like, if you solved it, good for you. I'll grade it by what you put on there. But if not, you can take the test again at 9 p.m. and I won't take the highest grade. I'm only gonna take the 9 p.m. test if you and we took it at 10 a.m. that morning. So I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna hope I did good on that one, and I ended up doing pretty good. But that was super stressful.
Dude, and it's crazy. Like once you start getting to those tough classes after those introductory courses, you start to realize that like the final test, it's make or break a lot of the time. You go through the entire semester struggling, and then the final exam is like what decides if you pass the class or not. I know for you that's probably not the case because you're sitting at a 4.0.
Yeah, I
But for
stress out
me,
for the midterms.
for all us normies, we die through the midterms and try to try to
Try to scrape by on the final.
survive the final. It's surviving the final. Yeah.
See, the way to do it is to do good on your midterm. So by the time you get to the final, like finals week, you can be like, oh, I can get a 0 on it and still pass. And then you have
Yeah,
no stress.
that's the goal. If only it were that easy. You go into midterms studying your ass off, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do great. Boom, 35.
30. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Dude,
what
yeah,
about you? What
dynamics
about
is
you in the
tough.
hardest class?
Okay, hardest class. I'd probably have to say heat transfer. That's definitely the toughest class I've taken, theoretically wise, because heat transfer you use like every bit of math you've learned throughout school while learning new things. Like differential equations was a tough class for me. Um, calculus was a tough class for me. Thermo, thermo 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I
we
would
can
say
talk about
thermo one
thermo.
and two. Um, I honestly think a lot of people will probably think thermo 1 will be their toughest course, just because, for reference, like all the other courses, when you start taking tests and doing problems in them, you have like all your variables given, and if you don't have something, you have enough variables to like solve for it.
Yeah.
Thermo 1 introduces problems where you have to find the variables yourself in tables, and to
Yeah.
do
And the
that, you have to
tables are
know
like that thick.
yeah, you have to know the properties of the substances that are in your problem. Like it'll give you like refrigerant R134A. You have to go find that in the table, and if you don't know like how to read PV diagrams and things like that, you're going to be
Yeah, you're
screwed. You're
screwed.
not even going to be able to start the problem.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
like
why
before
thermo
you can
one
even like
is pretty
know
hard.
how to do the problem, you have to know how to find everything. So it makes it even
Yeah, you have to
worse.
find all the information.
Yeah. That's like
That's pretty tough.
yeah. Before people like my age group, before none of us have taken heat transfer yet, everyone always either says thermo one or dynamics is the hardest class, just depending on I was pretty good at thermo. Just I think I was just because I like thermo, like the thermo sections in chemistry and stuff. So I was just naturally pretty good at
Yeah,
thermo, but dynamics was awful.
yeah. Dynamics is like a completely new thing. Well, like a 3D version of what you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm stressing out because I haven't taken heat transfer yet, so I still have to take that class. So I'm very
Yeah,
scared for it.
I can go into a little bit of what heat transfer is about. So you pretty much take it like your senior year, and it's made up of three big topics. It's made up of heat transfer via conduction, convection, and radiation. And if you don't know this, conduction is the transfer of heat through objects, like physical objects. Convection is transfer of heat through convection, like air and stuff like that. And radiation is basically heat radiating off of objects. So, yeah, it sounds pretty simple. You spend the entire class learning 3 different heat transfer topics, but it just breaks down into so many differential equations and different like problems. It's a nightmare, and it's all new. Like all the theory is so new, and in order to solve it, you have to use some of the toughest differential equations and math you've learned in school, and it's just a nightmare.
I'm not looking forward to that class. I am.
Hopefully, you have a good professor, because my professor was. He was knowledgeable, but if you have a bad professor, it's just hard to listen to them.
I forgot who they said they had. I forgot what professor it was, but I think they said he was pretty good. Like, he was strict, but like the tests were pretty fair from what they said, and then they said he made the final optional. Which is cool.
Final?
Yeah, so if you were passing the class, he didn't make you take the final. So I'm hoping I get him.
That's cool. Ours was mandatory for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, for reference, in heat transfer, he went into the final saying 79 or 81% of people were failing the class right before the final. So, something like that. It was a high percentage. Yeah. Luckily, I did pretty good in that class. I went to every lecture, and
you got an A. No, you got a high B, but that's like you got like the second best in your class, didn't you? Or like top up there, right?
It was up there. There were people who got A's. Paxton, he got an A.
Oh yeah. But I think classes like that are really hard, but like I don't know. Like, it's once you learn how you study, it's kind of like not like it's hard, but it's not like that much harder than like
it's just like every class you take, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So they're all hard. It's just some just take a lot more grinding than others.
Yeah. And I think what makes a lot of those classes hard too is just how much work they take to do the problems.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But like Cal 1 and Cal 2 and stuff like that, like those entry level classes, I still struggled in those.
Yeah,
like
they were hard too.
Yeah, like I did good in like the super hard classes like dynamics, thermo, but I also did like the same level I performed the same level in Cal 1, Cal 2. Like, I thought those were still hard classes. So it's not like you take all these classes and you're coasting by and then you finally get to dynamics and that's your first hard class you've ever taken. Like, they're all going to be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
but those are just memorably harder, a little bit harder than the others at least.
Yeah, for sure. And don't go into them thinking you're going to be struggling alone. A big thing that gets people through those classes is knowing that you're all on the struggle bus together. Everybody's having a hard time. And when you're sitting in class and the professor asks a question and you're wondering why no one's or he says something and no one's asking a question, don't assume everyone knows what he's talking about.
It's because they don't know
no one
what
knows
to
what
ask.
he's talking about, and they don't want to ask a question.
My favorite thing is after exams when you leave and you give your group meet for all your classes, and you get that, like, in every single one of my group meets, I'd always get a poll right after. It's like, how do you think you did? And it'd be 0 like A's, B's, and it'd all be like under a 50. Everyone's voting under 50.
It's all C, B, A, and FML. That's what they always say, and it's always FML.
But like even like a lot of classes, like the chemistry class we took together, and like a lot of engineering classes, a lot of times I think I'm doing worse than I actually do, because like a lot of professors want to help you, so like they'll give some professors don't, a lot of professors don't, but like some professors will like curve it, and like you'll be like, oh, I calculated everything, I'm gonna get a C, and then you'll look at your final grade and it'll be a B. So like a lot of them do secret stuff to like help you and bump your grade.
Oh yeah, and that's, I think, one of the biggest tips you could give for passing those hard classes. So once you get to these insanely challenging classes, I think the biggest thing you can do to make sure you succeed in them is go to office hours. You'd be surprised how many people do not go, or how little people do go. If you get like a face-to-face with the professor week by week, they see that you're putting in effort, and they're going to help you out a lot more. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's always a good idea to email them like right when class starts, like introduce them yourself, and when you're in person, go up to them, introduce yourself. That way they have a face to you, and like if you go to office hours, they see that you're trying. So if you like fail a test or you're like on the verge of a CEB and you go to them at the end of the semester, ask if there's anything you can do, they know you've been trying all semester and you reached out to them. They're not like, "Oh, I've
Oh
never
yeah.
seen you before in my life, so why would I help you?"
It's a perfect way to get a rec letter too.
Yeah, and
So
for that.
if passing the class isn't enough for you, a rec letter for the future should definitely be on your priority list.
Yeah.
So what'd you say? You said dynamics. I said heat transfer. Thermo 1 was an honorable mention
Yeah.
for me. What
Thermo
about
1
you?
is
Like
up there.
dynamic systems and controls was pretty tough, and
I'm-
circuits was tough.
Circuits was awful. I hate circuits though, because a lot of people think I mean, if you're into circuits and stuff like that, like that's gonna be easy for you. But I hate circuits and I hate anything like electrical. So circuits was awful. I had that online, and the teacher like just didn't care. So like
Hmm.
none of the tests were proctored. Like she said, use your notes, use whatever you need. So like I luckily got through it like that. But if it was in person, oh my, I would have failed.
Yeah, I took it in person, and the average on the first test I think was like a 32. But after that, they made the class noticeably easier. I think, like the tests. That first test was just awful. I enjoyed that class. I thought I absorbed the material well. I just think the tests were outrageous. Like there was no
Yeah.
reason to make tests
I-
super hard.
I totally forgot about circuits. Yeah, circuits is awful.
That's
The
funny.
material is just not interesting for me.
Did you get
Might
like
be
an A in that class?
Yeah, because I got to use all my notes, and it was easy because I didn't study at all. Like I'd look at the exams would come up, and she'd be like, "Use your notes," but she would upload notes, and the notes would be basically the answers to the test.
Nice.
So like I didn't learn anything in that class. So I was kind of behind in some other classes where you had to use circuit stuff. So I had to relearn things. But yeah, I wouldn't. Mm-mm. Nope.
I got an A with a closed book, closed note, proctored exams. Let's go.
Oh my! You know what? Actually, dynamics, mechanics of solids was terrible
Mechanics of
for me.
solids? Really?
Yes. I got a B
Duh.
in that class. A low B. I
What?
got a low B in that class.
Wow. Wasn't that just like stress strain?
Just stress strain. Yeah, okay, yeah,
What
but
else is
it's
there?
like I don't it was terrible. It was probably
It's been
mixed with
years
that
since I
my
took that class. What would you say?
that it probably mixed in with the fact that the professor was awful. So having like even like a kind of hard class with an awful professor makes it terrible.
Oh, it makes it so much harder.
Yeah. So like that's why you always like when you sign up for classes, always do your research on the professors.
Rate my professor 100%. Go look.
Yeah. But
Oh man.
and just join clubs and like ask all the club members, like engineering clubs, ask what they think of professors. Because sometimes like my Thermo 1 professor has like a 3 on rate my professor out of 5. Like people talk crap about him. I really liked him. So like some classes that are really hard that you're gonna struggle through get bad ratings just because the class is hard. But yeah, always check ratings and ask your friends or whoever you know for professor recommendations because that can make or break a class.
Yeah, definitely can. I have a horror story on that. My fluids professor was probably the worst college professor you could possibly get ever, anywhere, bar none. My class had to write like an 18-page document in petition because she was failing everybody without teaching. And when we would ask questions in this class, this was during the pandemic, so it was online. She would mute everybody in the class, wouldn't let people ask questions because she didn't know how to answer them. And she would verbally like yell. She would yell at the students because she get insecure about trying to answer questions. This just sounds like I'm being mean to the professor. It was genuinely really
No.
bad. It was
Yeah. Some
shocking
professors
how
deserve it.
unprofessional she was. She would just read off PowerPoints. She didn't really know what she was. Maybe she did know what she was talking about, but she made it seem like she did not know what she was talking about. Would grade the test extremely horribly. And yeah, the class ended up getting her removed from teaching at the university, I think, because it
Good.
was that bad.
Because I took fluids like the semester after, and I had the professor that I think replaced her, and he was awesome. I loved him.
That's
He
awesome.
his tests were like the homework, but in class he kind of like went over problems, but he also went over like things in real life because you could tell he really liked the subject. So he would like go over things and relate it to real life and stuff. And a lot of professors just read off PowerPoints,
That's good.
so I like that.
They liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually makes me kind of mad because I feel like I learned nothing in fluids.
See,
I
that
mean,
sucks
nothing, and
too
I
because
paid so
fluids is like
much.
my favorite class.
Yeah.
I loved fluids. And
I
feel like
remember
I
talking
like
about the Bernoulli equation.
yeah. So you
I'm
yeah,
guessing,
that sucks.
is that like an energy balance for fluids? I don't even see. I don't even remember. It's like
Bernoulli is like for fluids flowing along a streamline. So like you can relate like a particle from like over here to over here if they're
oh
flowing in like a connected streamline. To find like velocity and density and all that type of stuff. It's really cool. I really like fluid mechanics.
I feel like I would have liked it too, but I didn't get the opportunity to learn.
So in summary,
Sucks.
the hardest classes we said was dynamics and heat transfer,
Heat transfer.
and thermo. I think thermodynamics, heat transfer is like the big three.
I think Patrick is going to change his answer from dynamics to dynamic systems and controls because dynamic systems and controls is basically dynamics integrating circuits and gear systems and stuff like that.
Circuits is my least favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That might be his hardest class, honestly.
then-
You might think
yeah.
it's harder than heat transfer.
And then there's like other ones sprinkled in there. Like a lot of people think solids, mechanics of solids was easy. I thought it was terrible. But yeah, I guess systems and controls, heat transfer, dynamics, thermo, those are like the big ones you should watch out for.
Kind of what you mesh with, yeah.
Yeah. And it depends on professor.
Well, what about easiest classes? What are some of the easiest classes that you'd say you've taken?
I don't think honestly, no class was easy. But I guess like manufacturing engineering and maybe materials engineering were the easiest just because they didn't require they weren't easy, they just required the least amount of work outside of the classroom.
A lot of memorization.
Yeah, it was like memorization. So if you suck at memorization, you would think those classes are really hard. But yeah, I didn't have that much like solving problems, homework and stuff to learn. So I thought those were pretty easy.
Yeah, definitely. I'd probably say those are the easiest. I thought linear algebra was pretty easy. I guess you haven't taken. It's called
I didn't take linear
engineering
algebra.
analysis, where we
Oh no, I hated those.
study. Really?
They took a lot of time for me. Like I had to study really hard in those
It's
classes.
like studying matrix systems and systems and equations.
They're
and
basically
stuff
like Cal 3, right?
yeah, it's like Cal 3.
Yeah, it's like Cal 3. And then numerical methods.
Oh, numerical methods was super easy. That's
Easiest,
just patterns.
And I love that class too
Yeah.
because the professor was awesome and the class was easy and it was actually fun to learn it.
Shout out Dr. Hood.
Yeah, Dr. Hood is awesome.
He's smart, dude. Have you heard some of the projects he's working on?
Yeah,
Guy's
it's
crazy.
crazy. He would like teach us a thing and then be like, okay, I'm using it for this project and describe his whole project. I'm like, what the heck? How do you use it for that?
Dude, that guy was awesome. But you're right. There really aren't that many easy classes you take. It's just
Yeah, because
A
it's
lot of
like all the
grinding.
engineering classes are hard because you sprinkle in like easy basic classes with them, like politics and
yeah. You
biology.
can't really count that. We need to just talk about like engineering specific
Yeah,
classes.
so like, I
So-
don't know.
Out of all the classes you've taken, which ones would you say is the most beneficial for what you're doing in your internship?
Manufacturing,
Manufacturing.
because I'm working at GM now, so I get to like see everything that we learned implemented. Maybe materials and mechanics of solids, because it's super practical to know how different objects and materials react to different types of forces and heat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those like, I think those are probably those two, like those three: solids, materials, and manufacturing. I think are the most applicable. Everything else is super like math heavy. So like I feel like you won't use that. I haven't used too much of that stuff in the field.
Yeah. You don't really use a lot of math working as an engineer. I mean, all that's kind of done for you.
Yeah.
It's
What
just
about you?
the most beneficial classes. Ooh, I definitely think I have three that come to my mind. So manufacturing is like the building block. The three classes I think that are most beneficial for engineering that I currently do. I'm currently a quality engineer for Toyota, if y'all didn't know. But I would say lean enterprise, or lean manufacturing and enterprise engineering. That's a big one. Whole systems and whole manufacturing facilities are based off that class and the concepts you learn there. I'd say quality and reliability engineering is also a big one. That's where you learn all your like root cause analysis skills, your risk analysis skills. You even learn like some Lean Six Sigma in that class as well, and how to apply those to like practical situations.
Yeah.
That one was really cool. And I think the third one, what was it? Can't remember the third one. Oh, facilities engineering, I think was really cool because you really get a big understanding of like manufacturing facilities and why they're laid out the way they are.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty useful one too. None of the math heavy courses. I'd say they're good for helping you learn problem solving skills, but like practical problem solving for what you pretty much be doing in engineering, I would say you learn from a lot of manufacturing oriented classes, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. I still need to take like all my electives and stuff, so I need to take like all those manufacturing classes you just listed because the only thing I've taken is like the basic just manufacturing engineering. So I still need to take like lean enterprises and stuff like that.
Sweet. And off topic, but I'm definitely going to be making a YouTube video separate from this podcast talking about quality engineering and what exactly it is I do and like what you can do to succeed in a role like that and why you would even choose that, because when I was coming up in school, I didn't even know quality engineering was a thing, honestly, when I started college. So yeah, I'm definitely going to make a video talking about that. Maybe people find that interesting.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the
Choose
quality
the
engineers sometimes.
Quality engiring.
They
Yeah.
do all
Got a lot of power in the plant.
Yeah, they do some
Nice.
cool stuff that other
Yeah.
people can't do.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and
so
I'm
far.
this is kind of off topic too, but I didn't like what I'm doing is I'm with the conveyor engineers. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, dude, you're like maintenance mostly then? Like
Yeah,
conveyor maintenance and like making sure the assembly
making
line
sure
stays
the assembly
running.
line doesn't shut down.
That is one of the hardest co-ops you could possibly do.
Yeah, but they're pretty chill. They're kind of like, we know you're an intern. We have everyone we need to run the place, so just kind of learn from us, and we'll give you tasks
nice.
here and there.
Dude, you're going to be there on like non-production days too. That's going to suck.
Did you
Like,
not
a
have to
lot
be
of the
there for
time-
non-production days?
Quality engineers? No. Why would we be there on non-production days unless we were sorting through parts? But even if we were sorting through parts, we need a lot of people there to help us.
Yeah, we're about to go on a 2-week shutdown, so yeah, I have to still be there.
Yeah, no. When we go on our shutdown, where I'm not going to be there.
Do you still get paid for it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're salaried, right? So like,
No, I'm actually hourly.
that's better.
It's
Okay.
scheduled downtime.
This is really off. We're getting really off topic. but like hourly is better than I always thought. Salary sounds like more like professional. Like having salary is better, but hourly is so much better. In some ways, kind of.
Some ways. Usually, a lot of times, if you're hourly, like contractors will be hourly. That's what I am. I'm a contractor. I work through this company called Aerotech, and Toyota basically pays Aerotech to have engineers work there, so they can pay them hourly, not salary, and give us less benefits. And I'll get into that when I talk about the role,
but like
I think that's something you could benefit from learning too. Because do you have like a lot of knowledge on contract engineers versus like permanent engineers and stuff like that?
no, like I kind of know because GM also does like a lot of contract work, and like they have their actual like GM engineers that like work for GM, and I just know like all the GM engineers are on salary, and they work like 9-10 hours every single day, and then don't get overtime.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty nice.
yeah,
I like overtime. It's nice. Not as many benefits is not nice, but I mean, if you're still young, you could ride it out on your parents. You'll be okay for like 2 years. 2 years after you graduate, and 2 years will give you enough time to make it to a permanent employee. So
yeah.
that'll be fine. Oh, we've hit that 30-minute mark, dude. We're gonna have to call it here in a sec. Yeah.
We got so off topic at the end.
I know. It's
But,
fine. I think it's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I went naturally in that direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like
Alrighty.
just like in
So-
general, college classes are just hard. So just be prepared.
Oh yeah, yeah. And don't stress too much. Just like know they're supposed to be hard. So yeah, and even if you fail, you always have an opportunity to make it up. Unless you try 3 times and fail, then it's probably not for you. But I mean, you gotta switch. They're gonna make you switch if you fail 3 times in one subject. So
Okay, I always wondered, can you switch if you fail like mechanical engineering at the class, can you just switch to like civil?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I thought like you couldn't do engineering at all.
no, you can say it.
Okay,
Just
so
can't do mechanical.
that's not a deal breaker. So go fail 3
Yeah.
classes and you're good.
And you can still get the same jobs you wanted as a mechanical engineer with other majors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just about getting your degree. At the end of the day, it's about getting the degree. Alrighty. Well, I guess that's all the time we had to talk about that for today. Patrick, you got any closing remarks you'd like to add? No?
No, other than just be prepared. College is fun, but it's also hard. So just stay focused and put in the work and you'll be fine.
Wise words from Confucius. Alrighty. Well, this has been another podcast with Undefined. We appreciate y'all for listening, and we will catch y'all in next week's episode. Thank you very much. Peace.